This is the Chris Berry Show. Expert information on wealth, estate, and tax planning for the second half of life. Information that you can understand. Here's your host, Chris Berry.
Welcome to the Chris Berry Show, where we talk wealth, estate, and tax planning for the second half of life. Very excited to have you listening this week. This week, we're going to start with a positive focus, which we start with every week. Just something positive to start the show off on a right foot. And this week's positive focus is that I was able to take the kids to the Detroit Zoo. So I haven't been to the Detroit Zoo with the kids in a while, so asked them what they want to do one day, and they're like, let's go to the zoo. I'm like, all right, let's do this. And so when we went to the zoo, it was pretty warm out there. It was a little hot, but we got there basically right when the zoo was opening, and there's a lot of buses, so there's a lot of people there right at the zoo in the beginning. And so we kind of did a veteran move. We hopped on the train, paid a couple bucks to hop on the train that took us to the back of the zoo, and so we started working from the back where there was a lot less people. We were able to get closer to the animals, and it was less noise. And both kids really appreciated that. And it was kind of nice. We timed it so we got back there when they were feeding some of the animals. They were feeding the giraffes and got to see them tossing pieces of meat to the wolves. So the wolves were like running around and stuff. So it was pretty cool. But it's a veteran move. And it's one of the things about just not going with the masses and thinking a little bit differently. You can have some better results. Similarly, that's our approach with a lot of the planning, the legal, financial, and tax planning we see out there. Is that it's one thing to just follow kind of what the herd is doing, following kind of what the government's laid out for you, but we like to think a little bit different. See if there's different ways to approach common problems that can yield to better results. And two examples of this, well, there's many examples, but one of the things I want to bring up is we have a couple workshops coming up, especially one of them talking about living a tax-free retirement. We really talk about looking at retirement planning from a different lens. We've been sold on this idea from the government that you want to defer paying taxes as long as possible. But that might not make sense. And so we have a workshop coming up through AFIA, which is the American Financial Education Alliance, where we talk about living a tax-free retirement. And we spend a lot of time talking about how the government's kind of sold us on this idea of throwing as much money into tax-deferred 401ks and IRAs as possible. And that's really kind of following that herd mentality. What we're going to do is talk about thinking about a little bit differently and maybe looking at trying to diversify your tax buckets. And we'll spend some more time talking about that on the show. And then also we have another AFIA course as well coming up talking about Social Security benefit options. So too often people just kind of follow what everyone else is doing and claim Social Security as soon as they turn 62 or as soon as they retire. Well, understand that retirement and claiming Social Security is not married. It's an idea that is separate. You don't have to do it at the same time. And so you don't have to follow that herd mentality of, well, that's what my friend at work did, or that's what I heard you're supposed to do. We go over and we prove this with math, that sometimes there's some other strategies out there. So just like myself and my children, when we got to the zoo, we're not just going to follow the herd and do what everyone else is doing. We took a different approach and we had a better result and a better time. Similarly, it comes to planning for retirement. We don't just take what the mainstream media is telling us to do with our money or how to approach retirement. It's important to look at it from an independent view and really look at it with the eye of maybe there's some other options out there. So we do have these workshops coming up. They're going to be at Cleary University in Howell. And our first workshop is going to be Tuesday, July 16th at 10 a.m. And that's going to be on Social Security benefit options. And then our second workshop on Social Security is going to be Thursday, July 18th at 6 p.m. So there's two opportunities to listen to us have a conversation about Social Security. And it's a 2-hour course, and we go through real-world strategies and methods designed for those 60 and up who are preparing for retirement or in the early stages of retirement and planning on filing for their Social Security benefits. So this is something that if you haven't filed for Social Security yet, or if you filed within the last year, you might learn some different strategies, different ways to maximize the amount of Social Security that you're receiving in retirement. And we'll spend some time talking about that more in our second segment today on the Chris Berry Show. Get into Social Security benefit options. And then on our third segment of the Chris Berry Show, we're going to talk about living a tax-free retirement. And that's going to be the second class that we're offering at Cleary coming up in July. So we still have our typical workshops that we do about once a week at one of our different office locations where we talk about planning for the second half of life, legal, financial, and tax planning. So we still have those workshops going on, but we have these additional workshops really focusing on these specific issues. So our Living a Tax-Free Retirement workshop will be also at Cleary University, and that's going to be Wednesday, July 17th at 6 p.m. Again, Wednesday, July 17th at 6 p.m. And then we're going to have the same workshop, Living a Tax-Free Retirement, Thursday, July 18th at 2 p.m. Again, that's going to be July 18th at 2 p.m. And there's a couple different ways that if you want to register, you can. And I'll talk a little bit more about the workshops, but there's a couple ways to register. You can register online by going to www.myafia.com. So that's myafea.org. And then you go to chapter event 4545. So I am the chapter president of the AFIA group here in Livingston County and serving Ann Arbor as well. So again, if you want to register online, and you do have to register because space is limited, and this is a free workshop, but if you want to register online, you can go to www.myafia.org /chapter event and then put in the number 4545. Or you can also call at 844-211-6199, or let me try that again. 844-211-6119. And then the RSVP number is going to be 4545. So those are two workshops we have coming up. One on Social Security benefits in July. It's going to be Tuesday, July 16th at 10 a.m. And Thursday, July 18th at 6 p.m. That's going to be Social Security timing. And then Living a Tax-Free Retirement is going to be Wednesday, July 17th at 6 p.m. and July 18th at 2 p.m. You only need to show up for one of each of those workshops if you want to, because we're just repeating the same information. So you don't sign up for two of the Living Tax-Free Retirement unless you really want to kind of go over everything again. So some of the things we're going to cover at the Social Security workshop, we're going to cover how to properly file for Social Security benefits, learn ways to maximize the amount you're eligible to receive, especially with married couples. There's a lot of different ways that we can look at claiming Social Security. How to avoid some of the most common mistakes people make when claiming their benefits. And there's a lot of mistakes people can make. How much income you can make and still draw Social Security. So we'll talk about some of the strategies or what happens if you continue working. Can you work and claim Social Security at the same time? Well, the answer is it depends if you want to claim Social Security without getting penalized. We'll talk about how Social Security is taxed. So this is sometimes surprising to people or surprising that your Social Security could not get taxed. It's interesting, and it's kind of complicated how Social Security gets taxed, but we'll talk about that in the workshop and also a little bit in our second segment today. And then very important, how to determine which claiming strategy is best for you. And so it's great to get this information, to understand how Social Security works and the ways to maximize it. But probably the most important thing is going to be how to determine which claiming strategy is best for you. Because there's a lot of different strategies. There's lots of different age combinations. I think there's over 800 different age combinations that determine what your Social Security will be. And then how to claim a spousal benefit even if you're divorced. So if you want to learn more about Social Security, then again, we have these workshops coming up Tuesday, July 16th, 10 a.m., and Thursday, July 18th at 6 p.m. at Cleary University in Howell. And then also, we have the workshops, Living a Tax-Free Retirement. And these are one of my favorite workshops to put on because this really just shows how thinking differently, don't just believing what we were told by mainstream media or the government or listening to what your coworkers are doing. Because the word on the street and what people have been sold for so many years is to just defer paying taxes. And there's some people out there, people like Ed Slott or David McKnight, that have been banging the drum that maybe you shouldn't have all your money in tax-deferred accounts. And so our Living a Tax-Free Retirement workshop, we go over strategies, no matter how old you are, where we can look at getting more tax deferred, maybe moving money from some of those tax deferred accounts and paying the tax sooner rather than later. And we talk about some of the strategies of why, or some of the reasons why that's important. And so in our Living a Tax-Free Retirement workshop, some of the things we talk about include how to establish retirement goals and objectives based on your risk tolerance. And that's coming to the understanding that we're not all as risk adverse, or some people are more aggressive as it comes to their retirement planning than other people and their investments. We'll talk about identifying the IRA ticking time bomb, which is something that sneaks up on people, and required minimum distributions. How to optimize your asset allocation to minimize risk of loss. So the idea is that you've worked hard to accumulate whatever it is that you have, your wealth. What are the things that we can do to preserve it and then move into what we call the distribution phase of life? And why paying off your mortgage early might be a potentially bad idea, especially with certain tax consequences. How to use banking strategies to become your own banker. So understanding how money works, and we'll talk about kind of the flow of money. And how to use the current IRS tax code to create a tax-free retirement. So we talk about things like the order of money and how there's different types of money, whether it's tax-deferred, taxable, or money that can grow tax-free. And then how to generate predictable and reliable income for life. So when we talk about creating a sound retirement game plan, making sure that we have a plan for income really is one of the most important aspects of that, because we need to make sure that our income lasts as long as we do. And so minimizing taxes, minimizing risk are important factors as it relates to creating that income stream for life. So if you want more information on that Living a Tax-Free Retirement, or if you want to sign up for that workshop, the workshop we're going to have is going to be Wednesday, July 17th, 6 p.m. at Cleary University in Howell, or Thursday, July 18th at 2 p.m. In Howell. Okay, so it's the same workshop. That's the Living a Tax-Free Retirement workshop. And you can see more information on this and register online through AFIA's website. And AFIA stands for the American Financial Education Alliance. And they're an IRS-approved 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we're the chapter president, where we teach these classes just strictly, again, for education, just like what we're doing with this radio show, to be completely educational, because we think it's important to not just listen to maybe the mainstream media or follow kind of the government's plan of just deferring paying taxes as long as possible. Sometimes it makes sense to look at things a little bit differently. For example, when you get to the zoo, instead of starting at the beginning and following the crowd and get lost in the masses, you might have a better experience if if you look at things differently and start from the back and work backwards. And that's actually a good metaphor for just any type of planning, is we knew that we wanted to kind of cover the whole zoo. And so we started with the end result of, well, let's start at the back and work towards the front. Similarly, when it comes to goal setting and retirement planning, what is your overall goal? And then you work backwards from there to make sure that you have everything in place. So if you want to register for either of these workshops, Social Security benefit options or living a tax-free retirement, or if you want more information, you can register online at myafia.org /chapter event, and then the chapter is 4545, easy to remember, 4545, or you can call at 844-211-6119, and then the RSVP number will be 4545. And this class was just opened, and already I saw a couple people, some people registering. So space is limited for these workshops. They are completely free. There's no dinner or anything like that, so no steak dinner. You're not being sold anything. It's just completely educational. I think there's water, and sometimes we have cookies when it's getting really extravagant. But again, this is through a nonprofit, AFIA, just in-depth education and information, looking at things a little bit differently, looking at Social Security benefits a little bit differently, looking at living a tax-free retirement, looking at retirement planning a little bit differently than the rest. And so what we're going to do is we're going to dive into these issues a little bit more, give you a little bit teaser of what each of these workshops are going to be talking about. So in our next segment, we're going to get into Social Security benefit options, which really also leads into living a tax-free retirement, which will be our third segment today on the Chris Berry Show. And this week, we're not going to be able to get into many questions, but typically we do that. Now join me in the next segment as we get into Social Security timing and Social Security benefit options.
Certified elder law attorney Chris Berry from the Elder Care Firm in Brighton can help you protect your assets from the cost of long-term care, and they can also help you with estate planning, like they did for Linda Emerson.
I had to redo my will. It weighed on me that I hadn't changed it. I wanted to make everything easy for my daughter whenever I do keel over. But I went in, it was very professional, and sat down with Chris. I would definitely suggest him because he knows his stuff and he's not aggressive. He's, very friendly and makes you feel comfortable, because I think he realizes it's not a comfortable thing for people. It was just an easy process. I came out of it and I told my daughter, "It's all yours, kiddo."
Hello, I'm attorney Chris Berry. The Elder Care Firm is here to help you and your family find solutions. Call us today.
Visit theeldercarefirm.com today or call 810-214-3800, 810-214-3800.
Welcome back. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Social Security timing and maximizing Social Security. We do have a workshop coming up this Tuesday, July 16th in Howell at Cleary University at 10 a.m. And then Thursday, July 18th at 6 p.m. also at Cleary University. And it's a 2-hour workshop on Social Security. So I'm going to cover some of the highlights of that now, but understand this is just a tease. If you want to actually learn more about Social Security and get an opportunity for us to run a Social Security timing report for you, make sure to sign up for the class, which you can by calling AFIA directly. And AFIA is the American Financial Education Alliance. And you can call them at 844-211-6119 and RSVP at 4545. So with Social Security, this is an important conversation because for the average earner in America, that Social Security makes up about 40% of their retirement income. So 40% of your retirement income for most average Americans is made up from Social Security benefits. And the source of this is Social Security itself. So 40% of your income is going to be made up by Social Security. And then that leaves 60% of your income from other sources, things like retirement plan distributions, annuities, brokerage accounts, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, and other savings. So if you look at it as a kind of a pie chart, 40% of that's going to be Social Security benefits. So that's why it's so important to nail the Social Security optimization question, because one decision is going to make up 40% of your retirement income potentially. Just how do you time Social Security? That's going to be 40% of the rest of your life, the whole second half of your life from retirement on. Your income, 40% of your income is going to be defined by how you choose to claim Social Security. So that puts a lot of weight on making what sometimes can be overlooked in its complexity of the decision of Social Security. Too often people make rash decisions with Social Security without really running the numbers, without really understanding the different options that are available. For example, a lot of people just assume that when you're retired, you're supposed to claim Social Security. Maybe, but maybe not. There might be other ways to look at it, ways to think differently about this. And then also it drives home the point that 60% of our other income, or our retirement income, is coming from other sources. So not only do we need to nail the Social Security question, because that makes up 40% of our retirement income, but that still puts 60% of that income need on our shoulders to figure out how do we utilize our other assets, our retirement plans, annuities, etc. How do we structure our other assets so that we have income, so that we can cover our expenses in retirement, and it's not just about having big tax-deferred accounts. It's about actual purchasing power. How much of that money can you spend? So Social Security makes up 40%. 60% needs to come from other sources. So let's kind of dive a little bit deeper into the Social Security question. So how complex is Social Security? Well, there are multiple claiming strategies, and there's 81 different age combinations. And what happens is there's more than 565 different sets of calculations to consider when determining how and when to apply for Social Security benefits. And making the wrong decision with Social Security, you could be leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime on the table. Again, making the wrong Social Security decision could cost well over $100,000 during your lifetime. So it's super important that we make the right decision, that we spend some time planning on what is the best way to time Social Security. Sometimes people spend more time planning for a trip than they do retirement or claiming Social Security. Now, before we get too deep into Social Security, one of the big concerns is, will Social Security even be there when I need it? My thought here is that, and especially if you're reading your Social Security statements, it can be a little bit scary because if you read the current statements these days, it says that in 2034 they're going to be able to pay out maybe 74 cents on a dollar unless there's changes made to Social Security. Now, I think if you're near Social Security claiming age right now, I don't see that changing. What I see is that in the future, they're going to push back when full retirement age is. So right now, full retirement age for Social Security is 66 or 67, depending on when you need to claim Social Security. So depending on how old you are or when you're born, it might be 66, or for the rest of us, it's age 67. Well, the interesting thing is, if you look at when Social Security was created, full retirement age was actually 65. So that's when you would get your full Social Security. Well, the interesting thing is, do you know what the average life expectancy of an individual was when Social Security was created? Well, if you were able to claim Social Security at 65 and get your full benefit, the actual life expectancy of a individual in the U.S. was 63. So let that sink in for a second. Social Security wasn't supposed to kick in till 65, but most people were supposed to pass away at age 63. So Social Security really wasn't meant to be this leg of retirement income. Social Security was more of a hedge against longevity, with the idea that people would use their resources with the idea that they might pass away around 63. But if you were to live past 63, well, then Social Security would kick in to make sure that you weren't completely impoverished because you ran out of your own funds. So that was the purpose of Social Security. Now we look at Social Security, and it's making up 40% of most Americans' retirement income, and full retirement age is 67. You could claim as early as 62, but now people are living to 83, 84, 90. I lost my oldest client a year or two ago at age 107. And in fact, the first person to ever claim Social Security, her name was Ida Mae Fuller. She was a legal secretary, and she received Social Security checks for $22.54 until her death in 1975. And do you want to know how old she lived? She lived to be age 100. By the time of her death, Ida Mae Fuller had collected $22,888.92 from Social Security. And the funny thing is, she worked only 3 years and had contributed only $24 to the program. So you see that the program was pretty flawed right from the beginning, but it's great that Ida Mae Fuller, I think she won the Social Security game. Again, so she only put in $24.75 to the program, worked 3 years, and ended up collecting $22,888.92. So she won the Social Security game, and it's just funny that she lived to be age 100. When Social Security was created, the average life expectancy was 63. So this tells you that there's some flaws in how Social Security was created. But one of the things is that if you're near Social Security right now, I feel like, and this isn't any type of guarantee or anything, I think Social Security is going to be there because you plan on it. You're near the finish line. You're about to claim it. It seems unfair, but granted, it's the government. They can do what they want. But it seems a little bit unfair to kind of move that goalpost on you when you're near or already claiming Social Security. So I think what they're going to do is similar to what they did when they changed full retirement age previously, is they kind of grandfathered in people that were near retirement, near Social Security. So I think if there are going to be changes to Social Security that's going to be made, that it's going to affect people who are farther away from claiming Social Security. So if you're 60 or 55, near retirement, I think Social Security will be there in the way that it is now. So one of the first things with Social Security that you need to do is you need to take a look at your Social Security statement. So your Social Security statement summarizes your earnings that were subject to payroll taxes, and that's important in determining Social Security. Shows you how much you and your employer paid into Social Security and your Medicare taxes. And the important thing is it estimates your retirement benefits based on retiring at different ages. Now understand, these are just estimates, but they are pretty accurate. So that's one of the things that whenever we're sitting down with a family to help them put together a retirement game plan, is we make sure that we have these numbers. So we want to know what their Social Security would be at age 62, what Social Security would be at full retirement age, and what Social Security would be at age 70. So again, from your Social Security statement, you can get what your Social Security would be at age 62, what it would be at full retirement age, which would be 66 or 67, and then what your Social Security would be if you waited to age 70. And you can even check this online, and they recommend that you set up a Social Security account, and you can by going to ssa.gov. /my account. And right there online, you can review your Social Security benefits and your Medicare benefits, update your address, and change your direct deposit data. Social Security is really trying to push people towards looking at moving things online to lessen the burden on the actual staff there. So now, talking about Social Security, mention it, but understand you don't have to take Social Security right away. The earliest you can claim Social Security is 62. So that's the earliest you can claim Social Security. But if you claim Social Security early, then you're going to be lowering the amount of money you get monthly from Social Security. Or you could wait till full retirement age. Full retirement age will be age 66 if you're born from 1943 to 1959. And it might be 66 in a couple months, depending on when you were born. And then if you're and then for anyone born 1960 or later, it's going to be full retirement age will be age 67. Now, the latest age that you should claim or you can claim is age 70. Okay, so we have 62, full retirement age, and 70. So let's dive more into these ages. So what's the advantage of claiming Social Security at age 62? Well, the advantage is that you receive the benefits earlier. Now, the downside is that your Social Security benefit will be reduced. The monthly benefit you get from Social Security will be reduced. The advantage is you get your benefits earlier. What's the advantage of taking Social Security at full retirement age? Well, you get 100% of what your full retirement or what your Social Security is, but you're missing out on the benefits from 62 to age 66 or 67. Well, what happens if you were to wait to age 70? Well, now you get the highest monthly check, plus there's no penalty if you're employed, because if you do take Social Security early, like at 62 or prior to full retirement age, you could be penalized on Social Security. So, of course, there's no penalty. And then the disadvantage of taking it at age 70 or waiting to age 70 is that you have no benefits from age 62 to age 70. But basically what happens is every month that you or every year that you wait or delay taking Social Security, you get basically an 8% guaranteed income raise from Social Security, meaning that if full retirement age, you get 100% of what your Social Security is, then at age 70, then you would get 132% of what your Social Security would be. So you're getting basically a guaranteed 8% raise in your income. And this makes sense for a lot of people because where else are you going to get a guaranteed 8% raise? Really, you don't see that anywhere else. So by delaying taking Social Security, you can guarantee that you're going to get a guaranteed 8% raise in income for the rest of your life every year you wait. So for a lot of people, it makes sense to delay taking Social Security as long as possible. Then the question becomes, well, how am I going to cover my living expenses if I delay taking Social Security? And this is where we get into the second workshop we're doing, which is talking about a living and tax-free retirement. But the idea is that if we delay taking Social Security, then we need to cover our income gap somehow. And this is where maybe we pull money from those tax-deferred accounts. Things like our IRA, things like 401ks, 403bs. These are things that have not been taxed. We have to pay the tax at some point. And now, because we've delayed taking Social Security, we've retired, so we don't have that income coming in. Now we can pull money from those accounts in a lower income bracket potentially, pay the tax, and use that for our living expenses. Now, in our next workshop, in our other workshop, Living a Tax-Free Retirement, and in our next segment, we're going to talk about why maybe you want to pull more than just your income needs from your tax-deferred investments, why it may make sense from a tax efficiency standpoint to pull more than just the tax-deferred accounts. So stick with us as we continue this conversation, talking about Social Security maximization, benefit options, and living a tax-free retirement.
If you or a loved one is facing long-term care costs, make sure you talk with certified elder law attorney Chris Berry from the Elder Care Firm, like Jennifer did from Howell.
This past summer, my mom had to transition into a nursing home. So we contacted Chris to help get things in order. You know, I wanted the best. I wanted somebody who knew what they were doing. Chris was able to help save a lot of that money that my mom and dad both worked so hard for. I thought that everything would have to go to the nursing home, but it didn't. He was able to save us half of everything that would have gone if we hadn't contacted the Elder Care Firm. And we're all happy about that. Don't go to the nursing home without contacting Chris first.
Hello, I'm attorney Chris Berry. The Elder Care Firm is here to help you and your family find solutions. Call us today.
Protect your assets from probate, long-term care costs, the IRS, and get the governmental benefits you deserve. Visit theeldercarefirm.com today or call 810-214-3800. 810-214-3800.
So we're talking about Social Security and living a tax-free retirement. These are two workshops we have coming up in July. So Tuesday, July 16th in Howell at the Cleary University Johnson Center, we're going to, and at 10 a.m., we're going to be talking about Social Security benefit options. And then Thursday, July 18th at 6 p.m., also at Howell, Cleary University, again, talking Social Security benefit options. Same class, two different dates. And then piggybacking on that, we have our Living a Tax-Free Retirement Workshop, and that's going to be Wednesday, July 17th at 6 p.m. at Johnson Center at Cleary University, and also Thursday, July 18th, 2 p.m., Living a Tax-Free Retirement at Cleary University. And you can register online by going to www.myafia.org, chapter event 4545, or call at 844-211-6119 and give them RSVP number 4545. And AFIA is the American Financial Education Alliance, and it's a nonprofit that we support. So it is a 501c3, completely educational. Nothing's going to be sold. There's no steak dinners or anything like that. It's just good education for planning for the second half of life, thinking about things a little bit differently, not just buying into what we've been sold or told from mainstream media and the government of defer, paying taxes. Because when you do that, all you're doing is building up a bigger tax bill for the government. So we're talking about ways to minimize taxes, maximize the amount we pull from our Social Security. So we're talking about, in our previous segment, talking about Social Security benefits, and we're talking about how it may make sense to defer when you claim Social Security, because every year you wait, you get an 8% raise on your income for your life. So if at full retirement age of 66 or 67, it's 100%, at age 70, it would be 132%. So if you're looking to grow the amount of income you get each month from Social Security, it might make sense to explore delaying taking Social Security. Now, a big question that people ask is, how will working impact my Social Security benefits? Well, it depends on what your age is. So from age 62 to full retirement age, if you make over $17,640 in a year, for every $2 over the limit, $1 is withheld from your benefits. Now, this isn't Social Security taxation. This is a reduction of your benefits where it's withheld. And then at full retirement age, if you make over, in the year that you retire, if you make over $46,920, they're going to, for every $3 over the limit, $1 is withheld from your benefits. That's in the year of your retirement. Now, after full retirement age, so after 66 or 67, depending on when you were born, then there's no limit on your earnings. So there's no reduction. So that's where, if you do choose to work after full retirement age, you can pull your Social Security without receiving a reduction in benefits. Now, that doesn't mean your Social Security will not be taxed, because Social Security is taxed depending on how your provisional income plays out. So what is provisional income? Provisional income is the sum of all of your income, including tax-free municipal bond interest. So again, a lot of people assume that municipal bonds are tax-free. They are for income tax purposes. They are not for provisional income. So they factor into your Social Security income calculation. So provisional income is the sum of all of your income plus half of your Social Security income. So sources of provisional income: half of your Social Security income, wages, distributions from 401ks, IRAs, interest and dividend income, including interest on quote-unquote tax-free municipal bonds, capital gains, pension payments. All of that factors into provisional income. So the way it works is the more provisional income you have, then the more your Social Security will be taxed. So depending on the amount of provisional income you have, that will determine whether your Social Security would be taxed and also how much of your Social Security would be taxed. For example, for a married filing jointly, if you're under $32,000 of provisional income, 0% of your Social Security gets taxed. From $32,000 to $44,000, 50% of your Social Security would get taxed. And if it's over $44,000, up to 85% of your Social Security will end up being taxed. Now, it's not an 85% tax. It's 85% of your Social Security will be taxed. So it's important to understand the taxation and of Social Security and how provisional income works. And again, that's why we want to get to the most tax-efficient retirement possible. And there's different strategies that are available utilizing Social Security, especially for married couples, where maybe we have the spouse who earns less, takes their Social Security first, allowing the breadwinner to allow their Social Security to grow to age 70, really maximizing the amount of Social Security for the higher wage earner. But there's different strategies available, and we'll talk more about those strategies in the workshop, Social Security Benefit Options workshops that we're having. And then it dovetails nicely into the Living a Tax-Free Retirement workshop that we're also doing for AFIA. And this actually, it's similar to a client conversation I had recently. I had a client where first we started with putting together his rule book or his estate plan. So we worked on his legacy planning. And he was kind of a do-it-yourselfer, and that was fine. So we just put together the estate plan. And then we're having a conversation one day as we're doing a review with his family. And told me that he was looking at retiring, and I said, "Oh, okay, well, that's great." And that he was planning on retiring, and so we congratulated him on that. And then he came in after he retired and said, "Hey, Chris, we claimed Social Security." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you something. If I could show you something to really maximize Social Security, and I know you already claimed and filed and you kind of thought you had retirement all set and you had your plan in place. If I could show you something to maybe maximize the dollars from Social Security and minimize taxes, would you be open to that idea?" And I know you're kind of a do-it-yourselfer and one of those engineer types, you know. And I said, "Sure, Chris." And so I walked him through how Social Security works, and the idea that if you delay taking Social Security, that you can maximize the amount that you pull from Social Security, but also you can ensure that you have more guaranteed income for life. And so he just kind of bought into this idea that, well, when you retire, that's when you take Social Security because all of a sudden your income goes down, and how are you going to cover your living expenses? Well, first I kind of walked him through how Social Security works and how each year you wait, it grows by about 8%. And I said to him, and we'll call him John, I said, "Hey, John, where else are you getting a guaranteed 8% growth in any of your investments?" And again, he's a do-it-yourselfer using Vanguard, and he said, "Chris, nowhere." So I showed to him mathematically how it made sense in his situation for him and his wife to delay taking Social Security. And that led to the next conversation of he told me, well, okay, great. If I delay taking Social Security, how am I going to cover my income needs from 62 to 70? And so this is where we had the conversation. This is part of that Living a Tax-Free Retirement workshop that we're doing coming up July 17th and 18th in Howell. We talk about how to utilize strategies, utilize assets to cover that income gap from age 62 to 70. So if you were to, say, retire at age 62, as my client had done, we'll call him John, he looked at, well, if I delay taking Social Security, how am I going to cover that monthly expense? I've lost my paycheck. So we needed to come up with a way to recreate that paycheck for him. But what this allowed us to do, and this was really the magical part of it, because I asked him, I'm like, John, do you think taxes are going to go up or down in the future? And he told me, Chris, obviously they have to go up. We're in debt. They always go up. And I complimented him on understanding that. And then also he knew about the recent tax change where in 2025 taxes have to go up. And so if we all agree that taxes are probably going up in the future, then it makes sense to look at trying to pay the taxes sooner rather than later. So all the pieces of the puzzle kind of fit together. So we talked about delaying taking Social Security because that creates more guaranteed income for life. Okay. And then also what that did is allowed for the opportunity to now, because we've retired, our paycheck has went down, our income has went down, we're not claiming Social Security, we don't have income from that. That allows us to pull money from those tax-deferred accounts, pay the tax not only to cover our income needs, but now we look at moving money from those tax-deferred accounts to accounts that are either taxable or can grow tax-free. So that from age 62 to 70, we're going to be pulling money from the IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, not only to cover income needs, but also to move money from tax-deferred accounts to accounts that can grow tax-free. So by the time that, we'll call him John reaches age 70, he's maneuvered a lot of his money from his tax-deferred accounts to now tax-free accounts. So now the growth in there can grow tax-free. And as he pulls money out of those tax-deferred accounts in retirement, that money comes out tax-free. Plus, he's allowed his Social Security to grow at 8% a year. So he has a guaranteed income stream that is quite a bit larger than it was if he were to stick with claiming Social Security at age 62. So now he has a greater guaranteed income stream in retirement, plus a much more tax-efficient retirement. And that's great because now there's going to be less tax on his Social Security because there's less provisional income coming in. And because there's less income coming in, there's also going to be less of a Medicare premium as well, because depending on how high your income is, that can also affect your Medicare premium in retirement. So by moving to a tax-efficient retirement, he's in delaying taking Social Security, he's created a greater guaranteed source of income from Social Security in his life, and now in a much better tax-efficient retirement plan, so that if taxes do go up in the future, it's not going to have as dramatic effect, because a lot of people don't realize this, but they like this idea of having all this money in a tax-deferred account, like big IRA money and big 401k money. Well, it's good to have big money, but understand you need to get out of that partnership with the U.S. government. Understand that you haven't paid the tax. What isn't important is your pre-tax dollars. What is important is your purchasing power. How much can you actually buy with that money? And it's kind of like almost like a house. If you have a $500,000 house, but you have a mortgage of $100,000, how much do you really have? You really only have $400,000. Similarly with your IRAs and 401ks. If you have a pre-tax IRA of $500,000, do you really have $500,000? No, because you have a tax liability. You have to get out of that partnership with the U.S. government before you can use any of your money. And not only is it a mortgage, but it's an adjustable rate mortgage. Okay, so let's say you have a $500,000 house, $100,000 mortgage. Most people don't like the idea of adjustable rate mortgages these days. Most people have fixed mortgages, right? Well, similar concept inside of your IRA or 401k. If you have $500,000 in there, do you really have $500,000? The answer is no. You have a tax liability, kind of like a mortgage. So let's call it $100,000. But then what type of mortgage is it? Well, it's an adjustable rate mortgage, meaning that it's adjusted based on what tax rates are when you pull that money out. And so our recent president, with the 2018 tax code change, lowered marginal tax rates across the board. So right now, if you're at the previously, if you're at the 15% tax bracket, you're probably at the 12% tax bracket. If you were at 25, you're at 22. So taxes are on sale right now, and they're scheduled to go back up in 2025, let alone whatever happens in 2020. So just by looking at paying the tax sooner rather than later, you save maybe even 3% on your taxes. I'd rather pay a 12% tax than a 15% tax. So if you look at doing that over a period of time, even if you're over age of 70 and you're already taking out required minimum distributions, it might make sense to look at paying the tax sooner rather than later. But this is something we get into in much more detail, and we talk about a lot of different scenarios in our upcoming Living a Tax-Free Retirement Workshop. And that's going to be Wednesday, July 17th at 6 p.m. in Howell at Cleary University, and then Thursday, July 18th at 2 p.m. in Howell at Cleary University. You can register by calling 844-211-6119 using RSVP code 4545, or you can go online and register online at www.myafia.org/chapter events 4545. And also, throughout the year, we do additional workshops through AFIA, so you can always double check that website, and we'll make sure to link to it on our website, thechrisberryshow.com. Again, thechrisberryshow.com. And if you want some more information on those, feel free to email us at askchris@thechrisberryshow.com, or you can call us and call the radio show line 810-355-2584. So hopefully you enjoyed this conversation this week as we talked about Social Security, living a tax-free retirement, thinking a little bit differently with your retirement. Think for yourself. Don't rely on what you're sold by the government.
Learn more about Chris Berry and how he can help your family by visiting online at thechrisberryshow.com. That's thechrisberryshow.com. You can also call Chris Berry at 810-355-2584. That's 810-355-2584. This program content reflects the opinions of Chris Berry and his guests, not the elder care firm, AE Wealth Management, or the C.J. Berry Group, and is subject to change at any time without notice. Content provided herein is for informational purposes only and should not be used or construed as investment or legal advice or a recommendation regarding the purchase or sale of any security or to follow any legal or tax strategy. There is no guarantee that the strategist's statements, opinions, or forecasts provided herein will prove to be correct. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Indices are not available for direct investment. Any investor who attempts to mimic the performance of an index would incur fees and expenses which would reduce returns. All investing involves risk, including the potential for loss of principal. There's no guarantee that any investment plan or strategy will be successful. We recommend that you consult with a professional dedicated to your needs. This program is furnished by the Elder Care Firm.
The cost of long-term care can be overwhelming. If you're dealing with long-term care costs, make plans to attend the next free informative workshop from the Elder Care Firm in Brighton. They'll show you how to protect your hard-earned assets and obtain the governmental benefits you deserve, including veterans benefits and Medicaid.
Hello, I'm attorney Chris Berry. As the only certified elder law attorney in Livingston County, I have the knowledge and estate planning strategies to help you. When you call, reserve your seat at our next workshop or schedule a free 15-minute phone consultation. The Elder Care Firm is here to help you and your family find solutions. questions. Call us today.
Spots are filling up for the next free Elder Care Firm workshop. Reserve your seat today by calling 810-214-3800 or visit theeldercarefirm.com. The Elder Care Firm also invites you to join them at this year's Walk to End Alzheimer's. The walk is on Saturday, October 1st in downtown Brighton. Call 810-214-3800 today.